Wow, I can't believe Epstein killed himself before realizing it was all a hoax. You know, it's a dark time when Elon Musk is the person saying things that I agree with, but here we are. Don't get me wrong, no forgiveness for Elon Musk. He's still a Nazi who sided with fascists to launch a light dictatorship of the country, but nonetheless, now that they've kicked him out because he overstayed his welcome, even though it is, you know, just for self-preservation and self-gain, Elon Musk is spitting some truth at the moment. This video brought to you by my YouTube members and patrons. Thank you guys. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another subreddit video. And today we are going to be returning to r/facepalm. And yes, of course, we are going to be taking a look at a lot of posts about Donald Trump and Epstein. That's the topic at the moment. That's the subject, and there's a lot of facepalm posts surrounding it. So it's going to be brought up quite a lot. So, you know, that's just the way it is. If you don't care about Trump or Epstein, you should probably maybe consider why that might be. Pretty much. Very quickly before we begin, I just wanted to mention that, as always, patrons and YouTube members, you guys get an extra video every single week. That is for as low as £1 a month, which equates to about 25p per video. So if that is something that interests you, please do consider joining, as it genuinely really helps support the channel. Other than that, let's get into the subreddit, shall we? Remember how proud we were in elementary school when they taught us that America was the melting pot and people came from all over the world for a better life? Yeah, me too. Yeah, those were the days, weren't they? Back when people were proud to be a country of many cultures that people wanted to live in. But forget all that. Because Stacey here, you know, she has some other things in mind, you know? Like, for example, the fact that she doesn't care about the Epstein list. She doesn't give a shit if Trump's on it. She wouldn't give a shit if Trump raped her. Or that she wouldn't give a shit if Trump touched her kids. She said President Trump is getting shit done for the American people, and that's all that matters. I still support him and will continue to do so as long as I live. That's right, she doesn't care if Trump was friends and partook in pedophilia with one of the world's most prolific pedophiles of all time. She doesn't care about that because she thinks he's doing good for the country. Now, ignoring the fact that Trump hasn't done a single good thing since he took over as president, is it not maybe problematic to have someone who was friends with and partook in pedophilia with one of the most prolific pedophiles of all time to be in charge of one of the most powerful countries in the world? Is that not a little bit problematic? Does that not set him up to be using his power to inflict a lot more harm on a lot more people? You know, if he was going to partake in that with Epstein, if that was going to be a thing that he did regularly, him being president is definitely dangerous and definitely not in the best interest of the American people, because he's definitely going to be using his power for ulterior motives. And we're seeing that by the fact that, you know, he's protecting every single person who partook in pedophilia with Epstein. But taking a break from the Epstein talks for a second, but still talking about Trump, here's Trump in 2017 saying, "It is my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve." And then in 2025 saying, "I was surprised when Jerome Powell was appointed." Now, obviously, you know, this is malicious, but if it wasn't malicious, I'd be inclined to think that Donald Trump, you know, maybe had some kind of mental illness, perhaps a little bit of dementia or some kind of mental degenerative disease creeping in. We know that that's not the case, right? It's deliberately malicious. This is his goal. But otherwise, you know, imagine if Biden did or said this, and the story that they would be spinning on Fox News about Sleepy Joe Biden and his dementia. When Trump does it, crickets, silence. Nobody gives a shit. That's the political landscape we're on now. A Democrat has to literally be the perfect candidate. They have to be actually flawless and cannot make a single mistake, or places like Fox News will rip them apart for it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, he can do fucking anything. Literally a pedophile on Epstein's list, nothing. That doesn't matter. It's a cult. But, you know, that all starts to make a little bit more sense when you have stats like 71% of Americans can't locate the Pacific Ocean on a map. 33% don't believe in evolution. 26% believe the sun revolves around the Earth. 40% don't know what Auschwitz was. 33% can't name any branch of government. 54% read below a 6th grade level. But by all means, eliminate the Department of Education. So that last one is probably one of the most shocking ones, for me personally at least, because a 6th grade level, 54% of Americans read below a 6th grade level. Do you know what a 6th grade level is? That means that 54% of Americans would struggle to read Harry Potter. Now, obviously they're not missing out on much, but but it's a child's book. It's a book for children. It's meant to be easy to read. It's not exactly an in-depth story, you know? It's not the deepest of book series, and yet 54% of Americans would struggle to read it. There's a reason they changed the title from Philosopher's Stone to Sorcerer's Stone, and I'm pretty sure it's because 54% of Americans wouldn't know how to read the word Philosopher's Stone or understand the mythological significance of the item. Absolutely insane. The Democrats actually voted to have the US government publish child porn. What the f is even going on anymore? No excuse for pushing to release evidence that would traumatize victims all over again. Democrats are the party of pedophilia. Of course they want to see that shit. This is the spin they're putting on it now. This is the spin they're putting on release the Epstein list, because Donald Trump said no. So suddenly it's a problem that it needs to be released. My favorite response to this was a tweet from Tim Pool himself that someone else replied to when he said, Pam Bondi just said the Epstein list is on her desk. Release the list and expose the criminals. Oh, yeah, because Tim Pool himself was very much pro-releasing that list, which, you know, he is claiming as child porn, so he was very much pro-releasing that child porn. But now that Donald Trump has said, no, we're not releasing the list, because Donald Trump's on it, let's be honest, suddenly, no, we don't want to release the list. No, we shouldn't be releasing the list. No, that would be bad. That would be bad for America, actually. Revealing a list of all of the world's most prolific pedophiles, that would be bad for America, actually. If you think that not releasing this list is in the best interests of America, camera, stop focusing over there. If you think that not releasing this list is in the best interests of America, if you think that releasing this list would reveal too many people, that it would damage the country, do you maybe need to look inwards to the country and think, maybe there's an issue with the country if there are enough wealthy people on that list that it would be bad for the country to reveal them. Maybe those people shouldn't be in a position where it would damage the country to reveal that. Wouldn't that be an interesting thought if maybe the country wasn't elevated by pedophiles that are all on the same list? Maybe we shouldn't have elected one of those president. Good morning, patriots. Who sleeps better knowing Donald J. Trump is in charge? Epstein clients. Yeah, they sure do. I got nothing else to add to that. That's a succinct statement. Now, moving away from that again, we'll take a break from Epstein posts. We'll take a break for a second, and we're gonna read instead. While retirement typically occurs after completing a career and saving and investing for it, a new trend is emerging among Gen Z career professionals called micro-retirement. Micro-retirement involves taking a 1 or 2 week break from work every 12 to 18 months. Gen Z is using micro-retirement to avoid burnout, find greater fulfillment in their work, and enhance their overall well-being. Now, first of all, wording it like micro-retirement is clearly deliberately malicious, right? They even go on to say Gen Z are using it to avoid burnout and find greater fulfillment in their work, as if that's a bad thing. But the thing I really have to state is they call it micro-retirement. They say it's 1 or 2 weeks every 12 to 18 months, okay? 1 to 2 weeks every year to year and a half. I live in the UK. You could probably guess that by my accent and the fact that I'm not dying of disease because I have access to universal healthcare. In the UK, we have something called annual leave. Annual leave is an amount of hours, an amount of days that you are literally required to be able to take off every single year. Your employer is required to allow you to take off this amount of time every single year. In the UK, if you work a full-time job, you get around 3 to 4 weeks off a year, as if I'm remembering right. You get around a month. They are wording this as micro-retirements, as though it's a bad thing that someone would take 1 to 2 weeks off every 1 to 1.5 years. In the UK, we get that and more by law. In America, they're calling it micro-retirements and framing it like it's a bad thing. Truly, truly, the land of the free. It's true, the 1/3 pounder failed in America because they thought quarter pounders were bigger. Yeah, because they are. 1/3 is bigger than 1/4. 0.33 is bigger than 0.25. What are those signs? I love just proving it to this person. Like, Americans did in fact think that a quarter pounder was bigger than a third pounder because 1/4 has 1/4 instead of 1/3. It's smaller, but this person, what are those signs? Just proof of the American education system that they don't understand what greater than and lesser than symbols are and how that equates to fractions and decimals. It's embarrassing. It truly is embarrassing. This is an image MAGA is posting to stoke fear of Mamdani. A list of things that sound awesome. So ran Mamdani's platform. Housing. Freeze the rent, building affordable housing. Affordability. Creating city-owned grocery stores and fare-free buses. LGBTQIA+ protections, expanding and protecting gender-affirming care citywide, making New York City an LGBTQIA+ sanctuary city. Labor, raising the minimum wage to $30 by 2030. Trump-proofing New York City, end ICE cooperation. These all sound great. Like these genuinely, there's not a single thing wrong with a single one of the things mentioned here. Not one. Nothing mentioned here is wrong or problematic. These are all great things. So of course MAGA hates them because they hate progress. They hate actually supporting the people in the country they live in. The elite pedophiles who raped children on Epstein's island are going to get away with it, aren't they? You elected him president, moron. Of course he is. Yeah, I don't know what they were expecting. When all evidence that's been released in the past has very much pointed to the fact that Donald Trump is on that list, when we literally have records of Trump flying on that plane, we have records of Trump talking to Epstein, being friends with Epstein for a long, long time, and then, you know, he was running on releasing that list as soon as he gets president. Like, of course he was bullshitting, of course he was full of actual shit, and yet somehow his cultists just ate that shit up. And then he becomes president and goes, stop talking about the Epstein list. Stop it. Stop talking about it. We're not going to release it. Stop it. They're like, oh no, how could this have happened? Oh, if only there was some way to predict the fact that Trump was actually a pedophile and would cover up the release of the Epstein list. How could this have happened? It must have been Obama. Must have been Obama. And following on from that, this is a tweet from JD Vance, you know, the vice president. Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal sex trafficking ring? And then that guy died mysteriously in a jail? And now we just don't talk about it? Yeah, Vance, about that. You know, the guy that you ran for vice president with, you know, the guy that you supported as president, and the fact that he's on that list, and the fact that you're running with him, and now you're covering up that list with him? Yeah, about that, JD Vance. Why aren't you talking about it more? See, you were onto something in 2021 when it benefited you. But now that you're vice president, and your president is saying, there's no list, you're suddenly very quiet about it, aren't you? And Stephen King saying, the Epstein client list is real. So is the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. When in 2019, he said a lot of powerful people are breathing sighs of relief over Epstein's suicide. So Stephen King's on the list. Let's be real. They're saying there is no list. We're covering it up. Suddenly, Stephen King, who's been anti-Trump for, you know, the majority of his time on Twitter, suddenly he's agreeing with Trump. There is no Epstein list. It's not real. But let's be honest. Anybody that's actually read Stephen King's books would be unsurprised by the fact that he's on this list. In a previous Men Writing Women video I did, we saw how he described adolescent girls versus how he described adolescent boys. It was problematic, to say the least. The girls in skirts and leggings, their bosoms just beginning to bloom. Luke and his friend Rolf in baggy cords, this year's fashion statement for young men, and T-tops. So you just described the clothes the boys are wearing, but the girls, bosoms just beginning to bloom. He's describing underage girls. That's a bit fucking weird. And also, anybody that has read the book It knows how that book ends. Let's just say it ends with a lot of underage children doing some very explicit things. So it's probably not surprising, is it, that Stephen King might have partaken in something that Epstein might have been supplying him? But you know, that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. As is everything in in this video. It's just my opinion, you know? But come on. Breaking. FBI reportedly contacting media outlets and influence telling them to back off Epstein story or lose access to the administration. Mob boss Donald Trump resorts to the crime of extortion in hopes of keeping some of his other crimes hidden from the public. This is evidence known as consciousness of guilt in criminal cases. Donald Trump literally going, guys, stop talking about Epstein. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm not releasing the list. I'm not. Stop it. It's interesting how, you know, Republicans, they went from, we will release the files. We want to release the files. We'll do it if you elect us. To, the files are on my desk. I have the Epstein files and I have read them. To, the files are not real, guys. They're not real. They were fake. It's an Obama conspiracy. To, we're actually going to block the release of the files now. Yeah, the House Republicans, we're voting to block the release of those files. I really struggle to keep up with conservative bullshit when it comes to these discussions, because they cannot choose a line. They cannot choose a story. They cannot choose a narrative to run with. They keep flipping it about. It was very clear that some of them are on this list, because otherwise it wouldn't be a problem. In saying that, you know, someone else, MAGA, release the list. Elon, Trump is on the Epstein's list. MAGA, what list? And it's true. This is basically what the turn of events have been. But also, you know, in talking about Elon, because, you know, he's talking about it a lot at the moment. And, you know, if it takes Elon talking about it to actually push discussion of this, then f*** it, I guess that's what we need. But I'm not siding with Elon. I refuse to. We're not accepting him back. He's not a liberal. He'll never be a liberal. I don't think he's even going to try. He's just doing this for self-gain. But you have to point out the fact that he knew Trump was on the Epstein list and it was only an issue when they got rid of him, right? He was willingly working with Trump, who was on that Epstein list, all the way up until the fact that they got rid of him. So I think that says a lot about Elon, that it was only a problem after that point, right? But I think that's unsurprising when you look at Elon's own family, you know? When you look at the fact that Elon's own father has had children with Elon's stepsister, someone that his father raised. So, you know, things like that, they just run in the family. So MAGA spent years screaming, release the Epstein list, and now that Trump's name might be on it, they've shut down Congress last night trying to stop a vote on releasing the Epstein files. This is a boomerang that is coming back to them. Yeah, so this was tweeted a couple days ago, like as of me recording this video. Dates the recording a little bit, but this is, you know, the ongoing current affairs. This will have been a week ago as of this video coming out. But yeah, this is exactly what's happening. They're suddenly, oh no, the consequences of my actions. We didn't think people would actually want to release the files after we got elected. We were just running on that in the hope that they'd elect us and then forget about it. Oh dear. No, we want to see those files released. And it, you know, it's telling when any liberal or Democrat or left wing or anyone that isn't a MAGA Republican will say, I don't care who's on the list, I want the list released. I don't care if there are Democrats on the list. I don't care if there are celebrities that I would previously have liked on the list. I don't care who is on the list. I want that list released because they deserve to rot in jail. It doesn't matter who they are, they deserve to rot in jail for partaking in that. However, Republicans are going, oh, but if Donald Trump's on it, maybe we shouldn't release the list actually. You know, maybe he's doing good for the country, so releasing that list would be bad. I wouldn't care if he assaulted me or my child, as someone said earlier in this video. That would be bad to know that he was on the list actually, so we're not going to release it. And like, you know, the party of protecting children and family values, suddenly when their values mean nothing because their cult leader might be on a pedophile's list. Yeah, you're really protecting children and family values, aren't you? And the final post, again, something a little bit different, but you know, it's still ongoing, something that's ongoing at the moment, which is Laura Loomer tweeted, alligator lives matter. The good news is alligators are guaranteed at least 65 million meals if we get started now. The entire Latino population in the US is 65 million. She means all of us. Could you imagine if a Democrat said, oh yeah, actually we're gonna call for a genocide. We want to call for, you know, approximately 1/6 of the population of the country to be thrown in jail and fed to alligators. You know, could you imagine the fit that Fox News and Republican news outlets would throw if Democrats insinuated that they even wanted one person dead or fed to alligators? But no, Republicans are allowed to call for the death of 65 million people living in the country. Do I really need to say more? Do I really need to say more? I don't think I do. So I'm going to end the video there. I've given you guys a lot to think about. I've given you guys a lot to talk about. Donald Trump is on the Epstein list and he's blocking the release of it. Donald Trump is supporting a genocide along with his constituents who are supporting that genocide and acting like it's a great thing. The Republican Party is the party of pedophiles and Nazis. And that is the end of the discussion. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Oh boy. If you would like to support me in making more content like this, then I have a Patreon in the description down below. Or equally, you can click on that join button on the channel to support me. It helps a lot more than you might realize, but by no means should you feel like you have to. I'm going to keep making content regardless. But a huge, massive special thank you to all of the wonderful YouTube members and patrons that do support me. All of your names are up on screen right now. It genuinely helps so much, and it genuinely means so much. So thank you to everybody that does. Genuinely, thank you. Like one YouTube member or one patron giving £1 a month, that's the equivalent to a few hundred to a few thousand views a month. So the support genuinely helps so much. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.